Hi everybody, thanks for joining us this evening. I'm just adding in our guest here. One second. Sorry for the slight delay there. We had a few technical issues, the wonders of social media, I'm sure. It took a little while for us to get connected there. Hi Mark.
Hi there.
Thanks for finally managing to join us.
That was a bit of a trial, wasn't it?
It was a little bit of a trial there. We did a few phone updates and installs and reinstalls. Everything's working now, which is good, and we're very glad to have you with us this afternoon. So thank you everybody for joining us, no matter where you're from, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. If you want to pop a flag in the comments below and just let us know, that would be great. We'd like to see where our community is based and where you're tuning in from. So if you don't know already, my name's Steph. I've worked for Heritage Park Centre for just over a year now. I do all of the social media, the email campaigns, work at events, etc. This afternoon we have Mr. Rickard. He is Heritage's own operations director. So you may have seen myself interview one of our previous directors, Barney Dines, on another live. So this evening we've got another one with us. Mark, a bit more behind the scenes, Mark. I don't think people know as much about, but there's a lot there to know. So today we will be discussing Mark's history with the company, history with Volkswagens in general, previous business ventures, and just fun bits like that, really. So thanks for joining me, Mark. I guess really we're just going to get straight into it. So not everyone is aware that you've worked for Heritage Park Centre twice. How old were you when you first came to work here?
I was 16. David, the founder of the business, had just opened up a shop, his first shop, in a little place called Hangleton, back of Brighton and Hove, and I had just bought my first Beetle with my mate, and it was rotten as a pear, so we were breaking it and had some parts to sell. So chance in our arm, we went to see David, saw him sort of mucking around with Volkswagens outside this rather smart looking shop, and yeah, offered to sell him some used Volkswagen bits.
Yeah.
Ended up working there on a Saturday morning, sort of helping out, and then when I went to college, working in between my studies, or instead of my studies. But yeah, and that's how it how I first
began
the business.
So how long did you stay before you left, and what importantly what made you leave and then come back again?
Yeah, I was only in the business a couple of years. I mean, this was very early days when there was probably 4 or 5 staff in total. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is kind of around 1990.
I wasn't born yet. Just put that one in there for you.
And yeah, there was a bit of a recession that hit. David was unsure of how things were going to go, so just kind of gave me a heads up and said, you know, look, I don't know how things are going to pan out. Mm-hmm. If you want to jump ship and try something else, then I understand. So I went off and worked for an insurance company for 4 years.
Oh, that's a bit different.
Very different. Not really me either. Yeah, I stuck it for 4 years, going to work in a suit, and then like a lot of companies, they sort of had a restructure and offered voluntary redundancy.
Right.
I fancied going to Australia for a nice holiday, and the redundancy would pay for that, and I was kind of in my early 20s, so I was like, mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, this is obviously sound lifestyle decision here.
Yeah.
And happened to mention my my job situation to David, because I was still into Volkswagens, and were buying parts from the company still. So yeah, mentioned him that I was possibly in the market for a job, and one of his guys that he had working for him at the time was just about to leave. So it all kind of dovetailed quite nicely. And yeah, the rest is history. I went back to work for the company again after my nice holiday in Australia. And yeah, came back and got back on the phones on sales.
Yeah. So back then we were known as Carmen Classics. Do you recall how the rebrand was taken when the name changed to VW Heritage in 95?
I did. I actually had to ask David about this because I didn't have much memory of it. I was obviously a very different sort of position in the company back then. But yeah, it turns out it was actually at VW UK's suggestion. We got a letter from VW asking us to stop using the name Carmen. And yeah, bizarrely enough, considering how in recent years VW have got about their name being used, the suggestion came from VW Milton Keynes, head office for VW UK, that we might want to consider calling ourselves VW Heritage.
Wow.
So we ran with that.
Yeah, it's quite good for them to contact you rather than having to try and come up with something yourself and go through all that legalities of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I know it works well. We were the reason why we were called Carmen Classics is because David started the business specialising in Carmen gears.
Right.
And we branched out over the years very quickly because there aren't very many Carmen gears around. So there's not many specialists, but you know, we needed to broaden our range. So a more broad company name made sense.
Makes sense, yeah. It gives you room to grow in the future as well, doesn't it? Just to continually add ranges to it. So your dad actually came to work for Heritage as well, didn't he? About a year later in 96. Did you put in like a good word for him, or was he already kind of involved? How did he get involved in that as well?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. I certainly didn't put in a bad word for him. Yeah, it's weird. My dad was into he was always into cars. If he was into any particular market, it would probably be Renaults. Really, I think he probably would have said.
Really?
But he saw me getting into the Volkswagens and the scene, and at the time there was a local club in Brighton that I was a member of, and he ended up getting a Beetle himself.
All right.
As a daily driver, and then later he's had a beach buggy and a Carmen gear and
wow,
camper
went through the runs.
Yeah. So yeah, he took voluntary redundancy from BT after many decades, in fact, from when he first left school. Yeah, so he got a decent payout from BT, but wasn't ready to hang up his working boots straight away. So yeah, was in the market for a job with us at Heritage. So yeah, came and joined us. I think, if I remember rightly, he started with us looking after the dispatch side of things.
Right.
Our warehouse at the time was down a little sort of unmade road underneath a big car dealership, a modern car dealership. And we had the sales area set up on one side of the space, and we just looked straight across to the warehouse dispatch area.
Bit different to where we are now.
Yeah. I mean, it worked quite nicely. You could literally sort of shout across to the warehouse to find what the deal was on any particular order. Yeah.
How was it working with your dad? Did you?
Yeah, it was fine.
Was there any issues there?
Not really, no. I mean, as you know, as the years went on, he went into sales when I came out of sales, and then I sort of moved over to the operational side of the business, more the logistics side. My mum would often marvel at the fact how little we managed to speak to each other, because we spent 40 hours plus a week in a company in theory. But yeah, I should say, have you told Mark about that? No, I haven't seen him. But, yeah.
We can all avoid family the best times when we want to. Speaking of family members, I hear that your brother also worked for us as well. So, you know, was your mum involved? Was this a whole family shindig? How did that happen?
No, we never. I was going to say something nasty about my mum, but she was. No, we never got so in such a mess that we needed my mum to come in and sort it out.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, my father-in-law's worked for us for a good few years down in the warehouse. Again, he'd sort of had his career and retired, but was looking for something else to do and fill his day up a bit. So he worked in the warehouse for me.
Yeah.
My son, my eldest son, worked for us for a period of time as well. He's got
Oh, really?
But yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's nice that you all have the connection to it. As a family, are you all very kind of car orientated? Or
My brother,
anyway?
My brother strangely isn't. But as I say, my dad, he's still and always has been, and I guess that's where I get it from.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So you mentioned that obviously when you joined, so you were doing sales, then you kind of moved over to operations. What job roles have you officially had from your time from back in the day to now? In
the very, very early days, when there was literally 4 of us in the whole company, everything. Everyone did everything. We used to. David used to drive over to Germany, pick up a bay window van full of parts, drive it back to the UK, and we would then just spread the parts out on the shop floor and check them in. And then they would go away. The shop was like a little corner shop with a flat above, and we had the flat above as well for storage space. So there were like panels in the bath, and we used to keep the back orders when they came in the kitchen, literally the kitchen in this
Wow.
above the shop. So when we moved to a proper warehouse, a few years after that, we kept the back order area named as the kitchen, because we all knew it as the kitchen. So that name remained. But yeah, so in the early days, everything. And then over the years, I spent probably about 10 years in sales. On the phones. I mean, I used to do a lot of work on my own cars myself. So I could kind of help customers quite a bit on the air-cooled side of things, which we were heavily, pretty much exclusively involved with back then. So 10 years in sales, and then I was forced out into the cold of the warehouse about 15 years ago, and haven't been allowed back into the warm since.
It is freezing in the warehouse. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's a little bit warmer in my.
So when did you become a company director, co-owner? How did that come about?
About 15 years ago.
They said we're shoving him out in the cold, so we might as well do something.
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of coincided. To be fair, I mean, I will freely admit I'm not a natural born salesman. Not that that's really how we operate, but still, I was much happier being in the background, sort of doing doing the logistics side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it all coincided with Barney and Paul joining the business. So Barney's CEO now, and Paul's purchasing director. So all the three of us then joined David and Nikki, brought into the business at that stage, and yeah, you know, we grew with it, and we were that way up until about two or 3 years ago, when David and Nikki took more of the back seat, day-to-day running of things. But yeah, so yeah, 15 years.
Wow. So moving on to something a little bit more kind of personal aside from the business, let's talk cars. What was your first car?
Strictly speaking, I had a near miss with a Robin Reliant.
Oh wow.
Which nearly killed me. My friend, we had it up on breeze blocks, and it was in gear, and my friend tried to start it while I was underneath it, so I nearly had death by Robin Reliant.
That's not a way to go, is it?
No.
You don't want that on your tombstone.
Yeah, I can't recall exactly what happened, but we ended up not paying the £40 that we'd agreed to purchase this Robin for. And
£40.
I decided to forego the year advancement in my being able to go on the road, because you can drive a three-wheeler. I don't know if you still can, but then you could drive like a motorcycle license, so you could drive it at 16 with, you know, possibly zero street cred. But so yeah, that aside, that near miss, I didn't buy it, and no money changed hands, so just did a little bit of work on it, and then something made sense, and we halted that one. But yeah, the next one was a Beetle, which was the one that turned out to be rusty, so we broke that. And actually, I made a decent amount of money out of it even back then. You know, what am I? So 30 odd years ago. And then the next one was another Beetle that came along.
Right.
The guy had advertised it somewhere, probably a newspaper ad back then. It was local to us. Me and my friend were going to go halves on it, 25 quid each. And in between us agreeing to buy it and us going to collect it, he was a student in Brighton, and he let his student mates loose with some oil paints, and they painted massive bright flowers all over this Beetle.
Really?
So me and my friends sort of turned up to collect it. We were like, what has happened? But you know, he said, well, you know, it's 50 quid, take it or leave it, kind of thing. So
50 quid for a Beetle, man.
I mean, there were different times, but yeah, still, and it wasn't too bad. It needed a little bit of welding, and a few bits and pieces. Needed a headlight because it had been reversed into by a milk float. So yeah, we took it, and then for some reason my friend needed his 25 quid back. You know, big money in those days.
Big money.
And I bought him out, so it was my first car.
Yeah.
But I hadn't told my parents about it.
Oh really?
I kept it outside my girlfriend's house at the time. And I would sort of sneak it back to my house when my parents were away. And they were away on holiday with my younger brother. And I'd stupidly told my brother about this at some point.
Did he rat you out?
Sorry?
Did he rat you out?
Yeah, he did, by accident. But somehow the car had managed to I left the car outside my parents' house because I thought they weren't due back from holiday, and they came back when I wasn't expecting them. And my brother, as they pulled up in the street, said, "Oh, that must be Mark's beats." Oh, so that was it. The cat was out of the bag, and we had the normal sort of, "Well, you can't afford to run a car. It's, you know, making the street look a nice," or all of that kind of, you know, perfectly reasoned arguments. But anyway, I kept it, got it MOT'd, and yeah, kept it for. In fact, I owned it at least twice.
Really?
I went through it completely. I got it resprayed. It was a proper sort of back to '89 style sort of cowlooker. All the chrome removed. It was like Porsche magenta.
Really?
It had XR3i. Its seats in it.
Wow.
Yeah, 1641 twin carbs.
Fully decked out then.
Stupidly low suspension.
Of course.
I used to take, my mum's only 5 foot tall, bless her, and I used to take her shopping occasionally, and her feet wouldn't touch the ground with the seats in it. She couldn't actually rest her feet on the ground, and because of the bumpy ride, her feet would literally be sort of flapping around like it's bouncing off the floor, and she's going, "This car's stupid. You can walk if you like, Mum, rather than have a lift to the shops." But
you damn kids.
so yeah, that was my first car, and yeah, I kept it. I kept it for a good few years. Did lots to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, learned a lot. And yeah, as I say, then ended up buying it back at some point a few years later and keeping it for another period of time before letting it go. But yeah, I do. I know the reg off by heart, and
oh really?
It's gone to the scrapyard in the sky at some point. It's DVLA. It might be tucked away somewhere, but
yeah,
fear it's gone.
Well, look at the path it set you on with VW.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it could have been very different.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I'd have bought that Robin, who knows where I'd have been now.
Let's not think about that. So whenever the conversation comes up at work, and it does fairly regularly amongst our staff, about cars that we should have kept, your name comes up quite a bit. A lot of people will often mention something about an old Porsche. What's the story there?
I was very fortunate to inherited some money from my nan when I was which I got when I was 21, and I did the spend half, save half, so tucked half of it away, but that gave me a quite a nice pile of cash back then to go out and buy something quite nice. The first purchase was a Carman Gear convertible, which was really nice. I actually bought it off of David, the founder of the business, and I kept that for a couple of years, and then the hankering for something faster and
something a bit meatier
was there. So yeah, when I went shopping for a Porsche 912, much more affordable back then than they are now, which is the point at the tale. But yeah, so I bought this right-hand drive 67 912, metallic black with factory Recaro interior in it, set of polished Fuchs, 5-speed box, twin 40 Delautos on the stock engine.
Yeah.
It was a lovely car. Bought it off a stockbroker from Hertfordshire that kept it covered up in his garage and took it out on high days and holidays.
Yeah.
And I bought it from him and proceeded to drive it every day. Rain, snow, ice, literally every day. I remember getting stuck in it on Pycombe Hill, a local lane around these parts. Snowed one evening when I was coming back from a girlfriend's house at the time. But I actually embarrassingly got overtaken by a Citroen 2CV because they were tiny little narrow tyres and they just sort of cut through the snow and kept going. I don't know what I was running, some ridiculous as wide you could get on the Fuchs on the back of this 912, and I was just sitting there spinning my wheels. But yeah, I drove it into the ground basically. It was one of the few cars that I've had that I would literally just take it out on a Sunday morning for the hell of driving it. It was a lovely car to drive. But yeah, it had, whilst it was right-hand drive, it at some point got exported to the States and restored over there, and then brought back again. So the bodywork was starting to go a bit frilly around the edges. It wasn't terrible by any means, but it was just starting to go, and the engine was making worrying expensive noises. So yeah, contrary to popular belief, I didn't make any money selling it. I made a loss on it. But
really?
I had driven it into the ground. I mean, it was my only car for, I don't know, a couple of years when I was early 20s. But yeah, I mean, I sold that for £4,000. Yeah, I reckon.
Very different money these days.
30, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a lovely car. But it needed money spending on it. It needed me not driving it every day in my 20s. And absolutely. But yeah, big regrets on ever letting that go.
Yeah. I think a lot of people here at Heritage have those kind of stories of, if I hadn't have sold these. I remember in our last interview that we had with Barney, we spoke about things that he wished he hadn't sold, and there were so many parts and things that got kind of thrown away at the time because they weren't selling. It's like, nowadays we would kill to have those.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, isn't it? I obviously, now you drive a transporter now. What made you come from Beetle to Porsche? Did you have anything else in between, like a split or a bay, or now you're a transporter?
I sold my first Beetle to buy a '59 Devon split, which, yeah, I mean, that was 500 quid. You don't get 500 quid splits these days. It was, I mean, it was actually pretty solid. It wasn't badly rusty at all. It had a lot of the outriggers and sort of floor supports replaced over the years. But again, that was right-hand drive with the nice curved Devon interior in it, proper wooden interior, which was all there. And yeah, I drove that around for a couple of years, and I did make my money on that one. I doubled my money on that one. So yeah,
that's good.
£1,000 for a Devon, a right-hand drive '59 Devon split. It's kind of, there's a lot of very good things in that sentence.
Yes, there is.
But yeah, again, I drove it down to, did the old, driving down to Newquay with my mates and blowing engines up left, right, and centre. Buying engines from scrapyards whilst you're on holiday to the van so you can drive home again.
That's a true classic car owner, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah. Another one that got away. But yeah, I've had a few more Beetles in the mix. A US spec T25 Westphalia.
Nice.
I had for a good few years. I had a Porsche 914 after the 912, and then I've got into sort of water-cooled side of things. So I've had Passat GT 16 valve, sort of 1990, Mark II Golf GTI. And yeah, then kind of lost my way a bit. Family came along and had to get sensible, reliable transport.
Hmm.
So yeah, I guess which is where I ended up with a T4.
Yeah.
I've got a T4 now, but the first T4 I had, just popped up. I was a bit of late night auto trader surfing, and this for sale ad popped up just along the road in Worthing. A son was selling it on behalf of his dad that had passed away. It done like 78,000 miles. It was a caravel, really nice spec. So yeah, it was like £3,000, less than £3,000.
Yeah.
So I had that for 6 years, put 60,000 miles on it,
Nice.
and I spent a good deal of money over the years, tidied up the bodywork, got some rust issues sorted out, bits and pieces, and then double the money on that. So that was probably my best wheeler dealer.
I was going to say, you're wheeling and dealing now.
Yeah. But the timing was right when T4 started to get a following,
Yeah.
and they can easily be modified to keep up with modern day traffic. You drive down the motorway and 70 without any problems at all for hours on end.
Yeah.
Dabbled with the T5, which I really liked actually. It's the most car-like to drive, but yeah, it's fairly high miles. It's 2.5 TDI, and I just started to get mileage anxiety about big bills.
Yeah.
And then my current T4 came up again. This was a one owner T4 owned by again a guy in Worthing that was stopping driving and looking to sell it on. One of the guys I work with here, his dad happened to hear about it and mentioned to me, I knew of anyone that was interested. So got that about 3 years ago. That had 48,000 miles on it. So I was like, yes, please.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. So yeah. Which do you prefer? You prefer the T4 over the 5?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if the right T5 came along, if I could justify the cash on a T5 Caravelle that had reasonable miles on it, I would probably make the change, to be honest. But the T4 was quite nice. I've modified it to my tastes a fair bit. I can chuck my bikes in the back. I like to do a bit of cycling, so it ticks a lot of boxes for me. It's only done 68,000 miles, so there's plenty of life in it. Yeah, it's 2.5 TDI. So yeah, I'm very happy to stick with that for now.
Good. So in terms of you were saying about if you had the cash, make believe scenario here, if you were left say £50,000, what would you go out and buy?
It would have to be a Porsche 964.
Yeah.
I think the smart money would probably say buy as many nice 996s as you can, because I think they're probably the next thing to start moving up value wise. But yeah, I mean, I like I think it's, other than the sort of 60s 911s, it's my favourite sort of shape of the 911 models.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would be what I would end up with.
I like how you immediately knew what you wanted. I think a lot of people here would be umming and ahhing between a million different things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the reality of it. I think I was thinking something a nice split again. But I think actually, if I had that particular brief of right, you must go out and money on one vehicle, then yeah, it'd be a 964.
Nice. So, last one quickly before we wrap up. Has working at Heritage offered you any kind of money can't buy opportunities? Things that other people would be like, wow, you're really lucky to have done that or seen that or driven that. Is there any that kind of particularly stick out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the best thing. There's a few, but about 8 years ago or so, we had the opportunity to borrow one of the Volkswagen Classics fleet of vehicles that they have, sort of knocking around for promotional purposes.
Yeah.
They had a tie-up with a German tuning firm called Nutella.
Mm-hmm.
And they had built Volkswagen Classic, a Mark II, an oak green 3-door Mark II Golf GTI 16 valve.
Nice.
With 50,000 miles on it, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
Digi dash, it was just lovely.
Yeah, I bet.
Rainbow interior, it was lovely. And it had 200 horsepower because it had been fine. And they gave me the keys and said, "Do you want to drive that back from Wolfsburg to the UK?" And I went, "Yes, please."
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 600 miles on my own, driving this perfect Mark II Golf with 2 horsepower under my right foot. Yeah, and it was, I mean, yeah, it's sublime.
Yeah, it's a pretty special experience.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's probably the best. In earlier years, when I've been on trips to Germany with David to pick up parts in the very early days, I was given access to the old Volkswagen Museum in Wolfsburg after it had closed, so I could just wander around on my own.
Wow.
No one else there, taking photos and just ogling all the lovely cars.
Nerding out, basically.
And it's still there, and very, very much worth a visit. It's just round the corner from the Autostat, and a very different experience, but well worth the trip. I went back a couple of years ago.
Yes, it's something we do here with the staff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There was something we were supposed to do obviously this year, but COVID permitting, I was supposed to go. So hopefully next year that'll be something I'd be part of. That'd be really nice.
A factory tour as well, which is a great experience, and if you're really lucky, getting some Volkswagen sausage in the canteen with the
it's actually got its own part number and everything, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's genius. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to sit with us and chat about your kind of history with Heritage and some of the cars that you really shouldn't have let go. Again, apologies for the delay today, guys. Thank you for joining us anyway. If you are interested in joining us on a live story, then pop us a DM, be interviewed with myself or one of my colleagues, Andy. If you've got a story to tell, we would love to tell it. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for joining, Mark. This will be saved to our IGTV, and it will also be recorded and put onto our Facebook as well, so you can catch it there. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.